The radical left's agendas are attacking your values. But conservatives like you haven't forgotten what this country was built upon. My friends, the Heritage Foundation exists to make sure your voice is heard, to represent your values in the D.C. swamp. The Heritage Foundation stands for your values and won't give up the struggle because they know you never will. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. It's a profound time we live in right now, ladies and gentlemen. A truly profound time. I've never seen anything like it, and I say that in a good way. Oh, there are dark clouds. Don't get me wrong, there are grave things happening. With the Marxists and the Islamists, no question. With the cancer, the poison that is anti-Semitism and anti-Americanism. But the question the media pundits keep asking is, what is happening to the Democrat Party? What is happening to the Democrat Party? This is a question that radio and TV hosts and pundits are asking themselves. What happened is that the people, you've learned a great deal about the Democrat Party and its ideology, or should I say ideologies, over the years, and you don't like it. As I say over and over again, ideas do have consequences. Educating and reading remain crucial. Unfortunately, too many people with microphones and TV cameras have forgotten about this. Scholarship, history, philosophy still matter. They've always mattered. It's called getting back to basics, getting back to our founding principles, beliefs, and values, and exposing those who seek to pervert, undermine, and destroy them. In 2019, I wrote a book, Unfreedom of the Press, which sold hundreds of thousands of copies and exposed the media's bias and corruption in promoting the Democrat Party and its agenda. In 2021, I wrote a book, American Marxism. It was a massive bestseller, sold nearly 1.5 million copies. It exposed the Marxist influence in our culture and society, and the Democrat Party's role in promoting it. In 2023, I wrote a book called The Democrat Party Hates America, my longest book, which sold hundreds of thousands of copies and exposed the long, poisonous history of the Democrat Party. And as you know, as is my practice, I spent considerable time on radio and TV discussing these books and my research and my arguments. I'm an activist. I'm on a mission. I've always believed that the more we become informed, especially over time, the truth reveals itself to the many. This is why I write these books. I'm asked in these interviews I do by these wonderful hosts, Why do you write these books? This is why I write these books. Here's the truth. The written word is much more powerful than the broadcast medium, although both are important. But it also helps explain why so many in the broadcast medium keep asking me what has happened to the Democrat Party. We, the people, are in the know. That's what has happened to the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party is struggling and failing because it stands for virtually everything most Americans reject. It doesn't mean the Democrat Party is finished or that it cannot win future elections. On the contrary, there are many factors that even unpopular parties and movements employ to acquire and retain power, like an open border, like changing the election laws and so forth. But take at least some solace in the fact that at this moment in history, right now, you, are making a difference. And we need to keep at it. And we need to keep at it. I was motivated to open with this statement and to post this because of some of the wonderful interviews I've had. I believe my last book interview was this afternoon. Because I've said I've done 100 or more, and at this point that's enough. Either people want the book on power or they don't. But I want you to understand why I write these books. It's very important. The written word. Does anybody know what any broadcaster said in 2019 about anything, Mr. Producer? Very little, right? In 2021, in 2023, 7.5 weeks ago. No, don't get me wrong. There have been profound statements here and there. But oddly enough, it's the written word that lives forever. That's why it's so important that when you post on social media, you think about what you're posting. The written word lasts forever. Forever. 100 years from now, 200 years from now, 10 years from now, who knows? These hosts have been fantastic who've interviewed me for this book. Some have compared me to Rush. Some have compared me to de Tocqueville. Some have even gone beyond that. There was only one Rush. There was only one de Tocqueville. I get it, and I know it. I'm just Mark Levin, and this is what I do. And this is what I do. These books aren't written as an afterthought. These books aren't written for money. In fact, the least amount of money I receive is from books. I have no co-authors. I have no ghostwriters. The vast majority of people who ask you to read or buy, quote-unquote, their books have both. I have neither. And I never have. I just can't bring myself to come to you and my radio audience, TV audience, and encourage you to do something under false pretenses. I can't do it. I can't do it. You know, in Men in Black, my first book, where some of my friends helped do the research, you'll notice in the acknowledgement section I said their names and thanked them. But you'll notice that in the vast majority of my books, I don't do that. Because I do the research. All of them. It is important to me that if I'm going to try and make a case to you, that it's my case that I'm making to you. Mr. Producer, you can open your microphone. How many people write my monologues?
0.
0. And Rich, you've been with me how many years?
About 22.
22 years. You can ask the people who I work with on Blaze, my producers. You can ask my producers at Fox on Life, Liberty, and Levin. How many people write your monologues, your opening statements? None. Zero. That's not really that important. What's important is the content, I hope. I think that's the goal. 23 years behind this microphone, right, Rich? Is that what we figured out? 23 years. I do things a little differently. Depends on the day. Depends on what's happening. But I spend a lot of time on history and philosophy and books. And for the most part, program directors and general managers who run stations or a group of stations, they've understood this. The show's different. It's different. My Fox show is different. I have 2 guests, sometimes 1 guest. Long-form interviews. Not a machine gun process of guests and issues and this, that, and the other. And you have reacted very positively over the years to this. What I'm saying is the Democrat Party has been exposed in part by us. The media that's given it to air cover has been exposed. The ideology that moves that party, that is that party, what I call American Marxism, and I would now add Islamism and anti-Semitism, has been exposed. Has been exposed. And the Democrat Party's history of bigotry and racism and anti-Semitism and so much more has been exposed in exquisite detail. Exquisite detail. And you don't have to memorize what I say here or elsewhere. You can grab the book and turn the page. There it is. And over the years, thousands of citations. Thousands. To give the original source material. The reason the Democrat Party is having problems figuring out who it is today is really not an issue of figuring out who it is today. It has, from its very beginning, been a party that has rejected Americanism. From slavery to segregation, to Marxism, Islamism, and anti-Semitism. None of those things are Americanism. None of them. None of them. CRT, 1619 Project, DEI, rejecting merit and individualism. That's not Americanism. It's the opposite. Secularism, massive bureaucracies, centralized government programs. That's not our founding. That's not who we are. That's not what makes America great. That doesn't nurture the individual. That doesn't give breathing room to an individual's free will. We are the sovereign. That's not Americanism. Wokeism and all the rest of it. They've been exposed. There are millions and millions of you who've read these books, who've listened to this program over the decades, who now watch my program on Fox, and others, don't get me wrong, and others. You are citizens. You are involved citizens. The fact that you even listen to this program, the fact that you listen to this program and not something else at the same time, all the alternatives that you have, says a lot about you and your priorities and what's important to you. The fact that millions of you have purchased my books says a lot about you. When people say books are done, they're so blasé. They're so yesterday. It's you. You make the difference. Why do I do 3 book signings? I don't have to do any book signings. Because I want to hear and see people, look them in the eye, hear what they have to say. At the Reagan Library, we had a sold-out crowd. The library, which is a huge library, a fantastic library, I encourage you to visit it. It was filled to the rafters. And almost to a person, they said the same thing. We like it when you discuss history and philosophy. We like when you discuss this and that. People are already reading the books as they stand in line. Same with the Barnes & Noble group at Reston. Same with the others. And so I believe it has an impact. It has an impact over time. So when hosts and pundits are asking, what's going on? What's happened? It's because they spend too much time bouncing like a ping pong ball from one quick subject to the next, from one superficial issue to the next, without slowing down and having a discussion with you, which is what I try to do. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Conservatives in every stage of life are faced with ever-increasing challenges to our values in the classroom, on campus, and at work. Prepare yourself with a solid understanding of our nation's founding principles in today's most important public policy debates. The Heritage Foundation created the Heritage Academy to help ensure that every conservative from any walk of life has the foundation and the tools needed to defend their values. This 8-week online fellowship includes policy lectures on the most pressing issues facing Americans today, live Q&As to learn from top experts in the conservative movement, and opportunities to connect with other conservatives around the country. Without conservatives grounded in truth and informed on the state of our nation, America as we know it cannot survive. So please go to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin, and learn more about the Heritage Academy and how you can apply. That's heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin, paid for by the Heritage Foundation. We are much more informed. We are much more informed today than we were yesterday or the day before, aren't we? Much more. And this is important. Free speech is the crux of the matter. And free speech, the purpose of which, it's manifold, but certainly one of the crucial purposes of which is for you and me and we to communicate with each other about what's going on. That's why I wrote in my book on power, these negative power entities, autocracies, the first thing they do is kill speech. Well, that's what we need to use in the most aggressive way possible. When we come back, I want you to hear from Harry Enton, the CNN chief data analyst at CNN, about the Democrat Party. Now, we've got a lot to cover, so stick with me. We'll be right back. America needs patriots who know our founding principles and who can stand by those principles today. That's why the Heritage Foundation created the Heritage Academy, to prepare conservatives like you with the additional knowledge needed to stand firm in your beliefs in a world far too often unwelcoming to conservatives. All Heritage Academy fellows learn from the country's leading experts through policy lectures and live Q&A sessions. Speakers include Victor Davis Hanson, Mark Morgan, Dr. Kevin Roberts, and many more. Fellows also interact with other conservatives across the country in one of 3 tracks: high school track, college track, or the professionals and patriots track. I wish every American could join this 8-week online fellowship. But the next round of applications close on September 21. So please go to heritage.org/Levin to apply today. That's heritage.org/Levin. Join the Heritage Academy to help restore America. Learn more at heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Nobody says it better than Mark Levin.
I'll go with what Mark Levin said, because nobody could say it better.
Call in now at 877-381-3811.
You elected Donald Trump, obviously. You elected him. You elected him in a landslide. And thank God you did. Thank God we did. But you did this because you saw the possibilities both from the first term and beyond. You have yourselves to thank, and you should. You saved the country. You literally saved the country. 4 more years of open borders, we would have been over, would have been finished. Finished. 4 more years of the river to the sea, the marches in these colleges and universities, we would have been finished. Over. Of degrading the military. Done. You stopped it. Now, we have to be resolute. I'm not one of these that says, oh, it's a shoe in the midterm election. I'm hearing this, too. It's driving me crazy. Some of the same people who 4 years ago, 5 years ago, were talking about the shoe-in with that midterm election turned out to be not a disaster, but a huge disappointment, didn't it? So a lot of people, just because they talk, doesn't mean they know what the hell they're talking about, of course. But this is very, very important. So I want you to hear this. I want you to hear this from Enton, the chief data analyst over at CNN. He's really the only shining light over there at CNN. Cut 8, go.
Democratic brand right now has about the appeal with the American voter as the Cracker Barrel rebrand has with the American consumers. Bad, bad, bad. What are you doing? Oh, my goodness gracious. What are we talking about here in terms of big party registration changes in the key swing states? Let's look at the key 4 swing states that, in fact, do keep track of registration by party. Look, the Republican Party is in their best position at this point in the cycle since at least 2005 in all 4 of these key battleground states. We go out to the Southwest, Arizona. How about Nevada? Republicans haven't done this well since 2005. Oh, my goodness gracious, at this point in the cycle. North Carolina, I couldn't find a point at which Republicans were doing better at this point in the cycle. It's at least this century. It probably goes way back in the last century. And Pennsylvania, very similar. Republicans doing better at this point than at any point this century, at least as far as I could find. Now, what types of gains are we talking about here for the Republican Party? Well, let's compare it to this point during the first Trump administration all the way back in 2017. Look at this. The Republican Party gains in party registration compared to this point back in 2017 during the Trump first administration. In Arizona, you got a Republican gain of 3 points. Okay, how about Nevada? Up the hill we go, even though we're sticking in the Southwest. A gain of 6 points. How about, again, we come to the East Coast, North Carolina, a gain of 8 points for the Republicans. And in the Keystone State, in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, again, we're talking about a gain of 8 points. My goodness gracious, for Republicans, they are converting old former Democrats to their side of the ledger, as well as picking up new voters, registering new voters, and it absolutely paid off for them back in the 2024 election. Now, of course, Donald Trump has been president since January. Are there any bright spots for Democrats? Have they picked up any ground since January 1 in terms of party registration? Not in these key swing states, these 4 key swing states. What are we talking about? Party registration margin gain since January 1, 2025. Which parties gain in Arizona? The GOP. How about Nevada? The GOP. North Carolina? The GOP. How about in Pennsylvania? We'll make it 4 for 4, the GOP. The bottom line is this, Jessica Dean. When it comes to party registration, Republicans have made massive gains compared to 8 years ago. They are in their best position in these key 4 swing states dating back at least 20 years. You have to go back at least 20 years, at least in the case of Nevada, longer in North Carolina and Pennsylvania. So Republicans looking pretty gosh darn good, at least when it comes to party registration. And we'll see what happens down the road. But at this point, as I said at the beginning, the Democratic brand is in about as good a position as the Cracker Barrel rebrand. It is bad, bad, bad for the Democrats.
Okay. And we know why that's the case. They've been exposed by you in voting for Donald Trump and voting against them. We, the people, have the ultimate power. Still, perhaps not forever. This is a hugely positive period. We can have a hugely negative period, too. We still have pockets of this dark cloud that has the potential of metastasizing. When you look at New York City with Mondami, when you look at Minneapolis, when you look at some of these other areas, when you look at the damage that was in fact done by the Biden regime, by these federal judges, by the bureaucracy, they're not going away, which was my point to Victor Davis Hanson. They're not going away. They never go away. We're talking about electoral politics right now. They operate through electoral politics, but mostly through the permanent government that they've created. Activists, lifetime appointed judges, and effectively activists, lifetime appointed bureaucrats. Donald Trump has reached down into the bureaucracy. He's reached down into the culture and society where few have ever gone on the conservative Republican side, and he's dealt with it, and he's dealing with it. Thanks to you, because you elected him, despite all the static. And why did you do that? Because you're informed, because you're knowledgeable, because you know what the press is, because you understand what Marxism is. You know, you and I, we've introduced or reintroduced words into the culture here that weren't used. They were considered, well, too cutting, too hot. The words Marxist and communist, reintroduced into our society through my book, American Marxism. And when I went on Fox, when I went on other networks, behind this microphone, I said, stop saying progressive. Stop saying liberal. Stop saying socialist. They are what they are. Call them what they are. The President of the United States calls them what they are. Now you do, and I do. Because we talked about this at length. I wrote about this at length. 1.5 million of you nearly read about it in American Marxism. If it's Marxism, it's Marxism. Why give them cover? Even when I was being interviewed for my book, American Marxism, some of those interviewing me tried to steer clear of it, and I insisted, no. If we don't identify what is for what it is, we can't defeat it. In that same book, I talked about the Marxist model of oppressed versus oppressor. And I spoke about it over and over and over again. And now it's said by virtually every host on Fox, every host on conservative radio, and that's a very, very good thing. A very good thing. Because that one phrase helps to explain a lot. But so much more. So much more. Many of you were probably upset over the last few months when I called out the fake MAGA. You were trying to drag us down, trying to drag down President Trump, who sounded more like Bernie Sanders. I identified them by name. How they were trashing our country but pretending they were America first. I identified them by name. Who are buying into the Islamist anti-Semitism, regurgitating it, and still do. I called them out by name when others refused, when others were fearful. We cannot be defined by them because they're not providing you with principles and values and beliefs to consider, to digest, to debate. Bigotry, racism, anti-Semitism is not who we are. economic socialists, cultural Marxists. That's not who we are. And I talked again and again, name them, that we have nothing in common with these people. They're not who they say they are, and yet more and more they reveal who they are. These false prophets. Make America great again. What does that mean? Make America great again was Ronald Reagan's campaign slogan in 1984. And he won 49 states. One of the most massive electoral victories in American history. The Electoral College, other than Minnesota and D.C., he won every state. Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New York, Illinois, every single state. He almost won Minnesota. He lost it by 3,000 votes, meaning if 1,500 votes had swung in his favor, he would have won Minnesota too. The home state of the Democrat candidate, Walter Mondale. He almost won it. Peace through strength. Reaganism. Donald Trump, make America great again, MAGA. Donald Trump, peace through strength. There's a reason why Donald Trump hangs Ronald Reagan's official White House portrait over his left shoulder behind the Resolute desk in the Oval Office. Reagan had a massive appeal to blue-collar voters, to union members. He received the endorsement of the Teamsters in 1980 and 1984. He understood, as our brother Craig Shirley will tell you in these multiple books he's written about Reagan, a great historian, that Reagan appealed to all Americans, but especially blue-collar Americans. Donald Trump won a landslide, a massive landslide. It wasn't as big as Reagan's, but it's as big as can be. Why? Because of the demographic changes that has been orchestrated by the Democrat Party. The change in the population. And yet look what Trump did. A massive landslide. Every single swing state. And he would have won them bigger than was reported, but for the fact that the census was inaccurate. That the census was inaccurate. Against him and for the Democrats. And we would have had more Republicans in the House. Two men who won massive landslides, popular vote and electoral college, under different circumstances, but won them nonetheless, using the same or similar arguments. Make America great again, peace through strength, and so forth. Very different personalities. But two great communicators in their own way. Two great communicators. Makes a big difference. It's my honor to have known Reagan and to know Trump. I can tell you that right now. And in both cases, the American people rose up and voted overwhelmingly for them. Overwhelmingly. The problem with the Democrat Party is not that the Democrat Party has changed. It's always been a bigoted party. It's always been a racist party. It's always been an anti-Semitic party. It has. It has. It's always been a big government party, a central government party. It's always been a party that rejects the Constitution from slavery and segregation and all the rest. It's just that it's been exposed, despite the fact that it owns the media. Because of you. Because of you. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Conservatives in every stage of life are faced with ever-increasing challenges to our values in the classroom, on campus, and at work. Prepare yourself with a solid understanding of our nation's founding principles in today's most important public policy debates. The Heritage Foundation created the Heritage Academy to help ensure that every conservative from any walk of life has the foundation and the tools needed to defend their values. This 8-week online fellowship includes policy lectures on the most pressing issues facing Americans today, live Q&As to learn from top experts in the conservative movement, and opportunities to connect with other conservatives around the country. Without conservatives grounded in truth and informed on the state of our nation, America as we know it cannot survive. So please go to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin, and learn more about the Heritage Academy and how you can apply. That's heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin, paid for by the Heritage Foundation. Now, there's certain things you may disagree with President Trump is doing. There were certain things that people disagreed with when Ronald Reagan did them, too, as a matter of fact. I know I lived through that. Whether it was amnesty or certain trade barriers that he imposed on particularly Japan and other countries. I get that. It's okay. But I look at the trajectory of things. And so you can come out and oppose a certain policy or something like that, but I look at the trajectory of things. And that's why I think you take the overall person, the overall agenda, where he's driving the country, who his opponents are, where he's driving them, how he's trying to get the culture back in society, the civil part of society back. This is crucial. Very, very important. In fact, it'll determine whether the nation survives or not. We've got a lot more to cover here. I will move on from my more philosophical and sort of macro statements into what's going on in the country today, but I always feel like it's important to lay the foundation for what's actually taking place in this country, to step back, take a look, and have this discussion with you, because it's crucially important. It's very, very important. People are asking, what's going on with the Democrat Party? It's collapsing. I've said it. It's collapsing, and so forth and so on. Why? Why? Why are people turning away from it? Because you're informed. Because you're talking to other people. Because you know. That's why it's important. I'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. From the Financial Times, Washington prepared to contribute surveillance, command and control, and air defense assets to Ukraine. The U.S. has said it is prepared to provide intelligence assets and battlefield oversight to any Western security plan for post-war Ukraine and take part in a European-led air defense shield for the country, European and Ukrainian officials said. U.S. President Donald Trump told European leaders last week America would be part of coordination of security guarantees for post-war Ukraine, something Kiev has demanded to deter a future attack from Russia after any peace deal. Senior U.S. officials have since told European counterparts in multiple discussions that Washington would be prepared to contribute, quote, strategic enablers, unquote, including intelligence, surveillance, command and control, and air defense assets to enable any European-led deployment on the ground. 4 officials briefed on the talks, reconnaissance, told the Financial Times. A so-called coalition of the willing, led by the UK and France, has vowed to protect post-war Ukraine from any future Russian aggression. But European officials have privately admitted that any deployment could only take place with U.S. support to enable, oversee, and protect European troops. Washington already supplies Ukraine with Patriot air defense missiles, but the post-war support would involve U.S. aircraft, logistics, and ground-based radar supporting and enabling the European-enforced no-fly zone and air shield for the country, the officials said. Under any peace deal, the U.S.'s vast superior intelligence, surveillance, and command and control capabilities would enable satellite monitoring of a ceasefire and effective coordination of Western forces in the country. America's offer, voiced in a flurry of meetings between national security officials and military leaders from the U.S. and major European countries in recent days, is contingent on commitments by European capitals to deploy tens of thousands of troops to Ukraine, the officials cautioned. It could still be rescinded, they said, but it represents a significant shift in stance from the Trump administration, which earlier this year ruled out any U.S. participation in protecting post-conflict Ukraine, and has buoyed European officials who have spent months lobbying Washington to lend more support to Kiev. I might add here, ladies and gentlemen, that on Sunday's Life, Liberty, and Levin, my second guest was retired 4-star general and former vice chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Keane. Jack Keane. And he said, and I said, that this would be necessary. This would be necessary. The Russians, however, Putin, through this big mouth Lavrov, who's been around forever, he said that they wouldn't even sit down with Zelensky. They don't recognize him as the president of Ukraine. They wouldn't make any deal. This came up to the president today in the cabinet meeting, and he called it all bull, you know what. Bull blank. The U.S. remains opposed to deploying its own troops to Ukraine, the officials added. Other Trump administration officials, including Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, are skeptical of any participation in post-war guarantees for fear it would drag the U.S. into future conflict. The Pentagon referred questions to the White House and to a statement on Monday by Trump on security guarantees, but said the measures reported by the Financial Times, quote, are pre-decisional, and the Defense Department will not comment on pre-decisional topics, quote unquote. A White House official said, quote, President Trump and his national security team continue to engage with Russian and Ukrainian officials towards a bilateral meeting between Putin and Zelensky to stop the killing and end the war. Trump said on Monday that we haven't even discussed specifics of security guarantees for Ukraine. We'll be involved from the standpoint of backup. We're going to help them, he told reporters. Told Fox News last week that the U.S. was willing to help a European force, especially probably by air. Western capitals have sketched out a rough plan that would involve a demilitarized zone, possibly patrolled by neutral peacekeeping troops from a third country, agreed by Ukraine and Russia. Excuse me, cholera. A far more robust border behind that will be defended by Ukrainian troops, armed and trained by NATO militaries. 3 of the officials said. A European-led deterrence force would then be stationed deeper in Ukraine as a third line of defense, with U.S. assets supporting that from the rear. But even with the potential U.S. backing, the public and politicians in many European countries remain nervous about possible troop deployments to Ukraine. Andrei Yermak, the Iranian president's chief of staff, later confirmed to the Financial Times and that each country in the coalition would contribute differently. And in the end, the picture will be a mix of military, political, and economic support. This is important. Discussions resolved around 4 to 5 European brigades on the ground, provided by the coalition of the willing, plus strategic enablers from the U.S. He said that marked a big change from the spring. He said, indeed, the last meeting in the White House has become a breakthrough point in a number of things, brought clarity in terms of steps like forming the setting of security guarantees and pursuance of U.S. weapons for Ukraine's defense through European financial instruments. The U.S. can provide the backbone that makes the whole security and deterrence architecture work, he said. Trump's peace push has so far achieved limited results, and it goes on for a couple more sentences. Now, European Commission spokesperson Paula Pano said after the meeting in Washington last week, one of the takeaways was to task the national security advisors to look into how security guarantees could look concretely. We should soon be hearing from that group on what will be put forward. Pretty remarkable, don't you think, Mr. Producer? Now, what about Putin? Think he'll agree to that? Here's Putin's problem. If he doesn't agree to that, the president has the capacity economically to destroy his economy the way Reagan destroyed the economy of the Soviet Union. And he can destroy the economy of Russia with a couple of major strokes, as General Keane and I discussed on Sunday on Fox. Number one, tariffs on India and China, which are buying oil from Russia. So that would immediately put an end to the main source of currency, of cash, of liquidity for Russia. Through the two biggest countries, most populous countries on the face of the earth. That's number one. Number two, we had the capacity to destroy the value of the ruble and the Russian banking system through second-tier imposition of these penalties against Russia. And that would about do it. That would about do it. Now, thirdly, we would in fact, NATO would in fact purchase more and more advanced military equipment from the United States. Now, what was interesting in this piece, if it's true, I don't know. I suspect some of it's true. That Pete Hegseth is skeptical of any participation in post-war guarantees. Well, if there's no participation in post-war guarantees, there can be no peace. I can say that right now. Because Ukraine isn't going to agree to either a ceasefire or a so-called peace deal if it can't defend itself. It already learned that when it signed a deal in 1994, as we've talked about before, in which it surrendered all of its nuclear weapons to Russia in exchange for agreements to protect it and its borders from Russia, the United States, and Britain. This time it would be very difficult, if in fact this article is correct, for Russia to go back, or anybody to go back on their commitment, the way this is spelled out here. But this is a big deal. I thought you'd want to be the first to hear about it. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
How many times have you told someone, if it ain't broke, don't fix it? Now, that's great advice for most things, but not so much for a cell phone. See, over time, the battery life fades, the processor can't keep up, and it's fallen in the toilet perhaps one too many times. Fortunately, thanks to Pure Talk, your cell phone is something you can replace without feeling guilty. When you switch to Pure Talk this month, they're going to give you a Samsung Galaxy A36 for free with a $35 qualifying plan. Wow, just $35 a month for talk, text, and data, and a free Samsung phone, the scratch-resistant Gorilla Glass, and a battery that lasts all day. All on America's most dependable 5G network. Look, supporting companies like Pure Talk is a really good thing. You win by cutting your cell phone bill in half. They win by hiring more Americans and helping more veterans. Make the switch in as little as 10 minutes. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin to get your free phone today. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin. Switch to my wireless company, America's wireless company, Pure Talk. Bernie Sanders, another president dismissed him the other day. So, who really cares? I care. I care. Bernie Sanders campaigns with Israel critics running for Senate. It's not Israel critics, Jewish insider. He's campaigning with Hamas supporters. Hamas supporters. That's what Bernie Sanders is doing. He's campaigning with Hamas supporters, which proves my whole point, doesn't it? About the fusion of Marxism and Islamism. Bernie Sanders is a Stalinist. That's what he is. He's a Stalinist. And people can go around and say he's Jewish all they want. He's born a Jew. That's about the beginning and end of that. He's born a Jew. But that's irrelevant, isn't it? Bernie Sanders is a dangerous man. Bernie Sanders uses his platform from Vermont to try and destroy our country. He's running around talking about oligarchies. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't have an oligarchy here. What is this clown, this buffoon? This is a man who has, at different times in his life, supported Stalin. That's right. Supported Mao. Supported Noriega in Nicaragua. Supported Maduro, but of course now he doesn't. Chavez supported him, but now of course he doesn't. He's a communist, but he's worse. He's a Stalinist type of communist. He won't come on this program. He won't come on any of my programs. I can't blame him, to be perfectly honest. He'd rather go on CNN with Dana Bash. Oh, you're almost as popular as the Pope. Yes, you are. You're just fantastic. You're unbelievable. There's nothing fantastic about this old fool. He's gotten away with this game for a long time. A long time. So he's campaigning for a candidate in Maine for the Senate against Susan Collins. And this Democrat makes Susan Collins look like a Margaret Thatcher. I'm not kidding. Margaret Thatcher. Bernie Sanders. Oh, oligarchy. It's a fraud and a phony. But we'll never get him. We'll never get him. He's too busy going on CNN and MSNBC and Meet the Depressed. All these so-called legacy media platforms, which are really Democrat Party platforms, that'll never challenge the guy. They will not challenge the guy. I mean, look at his history. It's outrageous. But they won't challenge the guy. Mm-hmm. That's fine. I challenge him. But then again, he won't come on here, will he? Then we have Jamie Raskin, who's another commie. His father was a commie. I want you to Google the Institute for Policy Studies, IPS. Go ahead and Google it. Google his father, Raskin. Google it. See how they supported the Soviet Union during the Cold War. They even trashed Harry Truman later on. Now, they weren't actually, the IPS didn't exist when Harry Truman was president, but looking back, that's what they did. He came out of the Democrat Party and hard left. Hard left. And so here's Jamie Raskin. Hard left. Jamie Raskin's been involved in every effort to overthrow President Trump. all the impeachment moves, pushing all the criminal investigations, always on TV as a constitutional scholar, which of course he's not. He's an anti-constitutionalist. Anti. Let's listen to this. So he's on CNN. CNN loves these Stalinists, love these communists, Raskin. And I'm guessing it's Dana Bash, but I don't know who questions him. But they have a whole lineup over there. Raskin and Sanders and, that. The commies. Now, you notice they don't sue me. It's because I'm a lawyer and I know how to litigate and I would destroy them, potentially. But it's also because we'd get to the nub of the matter, wouldn't we? It's like the group CARE. Used to threaten hosts, chased them off radio. Don't you dare or else. And I said, okay, come get me. Because I'm going to counterclaim and I won't settle and I'll have every damn piece of your donors. I'll know everything about you. Which the government can't get, but I could get in a civil case. Same with these two clowns. Jimmy Raskin, constitutional scholar. Cut 9, go.
Nobody wants a military invasion. I think Donald Trump and Stephen Miller and Trump's handlers thought that he would conduct some kind of Mussolini-style military march across the country, subduing all the local populations, but it's completely...
This man sounds like he's on drugs. Doesn't he sound like he's hallucinating? But they bring him on CNN so he can spew this crap, this bull crap. That's why they do it. They know what he's going to say. They know he's full of crap. They know Sanders is full of crap. But they want them to say these things. Subduing all the local populations. March across the country, like Mussolini. By the way, he never uses communist examples. March across the country like Xi, Putin. Never says those things. Castro. He loved Castro. His daddy loved Castro. Go ahead.
Because it's really unifying all of the local communities against Trump and against...
No, it's not. It's unifying all the local Democrat mayors and council members. It's not unifying all the local communities. Raskin doesn't have the foggiest idea. Go ahead.
It's outrageous authoritarianism. They try to do it in...
How's it authoritarianism, moron, you putz? It's a federal city. He's the president. He's the commander-in-chief. He's bringing tranquility and security to the people in the city who are mostly minorities, of which most of whom are black, almost all of whom are Democrat. How is this authoritarian in any respect? In any respect, it's not. That this Stalinist would have you believe so. How many times have you told someone, if it ain't broke, don't fix it? Now, that's great advice for most things, but not so much for a cell phone. See, over time, the battery life fades, the processor can't keep up, and it's fallen in the toilet perhaps one too many times. Fortunately, thanks to Pure Talk, your cell phone is something you can replace without feeling guilty. When you switch to Pure Talk this month, they're going to give you a Samsung Galaxy A36 for free with a $35 qualifying plan. Wow, just $35 a month for talk, text, and data, and a free Samsung phone, the scratch-resistant Gorilla Glass, and a battery that lasts all day. All on America's most dependable 5G network. Look, supporting companies like Pure Talk is a really good thing. You win by cutting your cell phone bill in half. They win by hiring more Americans and helping more veterans. Make the switch in as little as 10 minutes. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin to get your free phone today. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin. Switch to my wireless company, America's wireless company, Pure Talk.
Liberty's voice, Mark Levin. Talk with that voice now. 877-381-3811.
President Trump at a cabinet meeting today that went on from 3.5 to 4 hours. It was actually very entertaining and very informative. So he knows exactly what's going on and who's trying to position themselves. The Democrats now, it's a party that stands for not just criminals, but violent criminals. It's a party that stands on the side, and I'm going to say it, of murderers, rapists, people who assault other people, carjackers. They have no answer. In fact, their position seems to be to defund the police without calling it defunding the police. President of the United States has demonstrated in 2 weeks' time how to get crime under control. And that is what? To use the law, to use people who are trained in the law, police officers, and to back them up with the National Guard. And it's worked. It's worked. So these Democrat-run left-wing cities, they refuse to do it. And so they're attacking the president as a dictator for bringing security and safety and protection to the people in the District of Columbia, the vast majority of whom, the overwhelming majority of whom are Democrats, and the vast majority of whom are minorities, and the majority of the minorities are black. And they're attacking him as a dictator. I ask you, why didn't Obama do this? Why didn't Biden do this? Cut 2, go.
I watched a man from Maryland who said to me, I mean, sir, you're the greatest president. You're doing an unbelievable job. What a great job. Governor Moore, has anyone heard of him? Mm-hmm. He's another hopeful for president. I don't think so. But I met him, and I didn't realize it was on camera. Did you see they caught him on camera? I was at a game, I don't know, like the Army-Navy game or something. And I met him in a hallway. And as usual, you do your job very well. One of these great cameramen had it on tape. But I met this gentleman. I never met him before. Sir, you're doing a great job. You're doing an unbelievable job. Thank you very much. But then he goes on television and says, oh, Trump is a dictator. He's a dictator. And a lot of people have here. So the line is that I'm a dictator, but I stop crime. So a lot of people say, you know, if that's the case, I'd rather have a dictator. But I'm not a dictator. I just know how to stop crime. And you would think that Illinois would have such a problem with crime, such a bad governor. He should be calling me, and he should be saying, could you send over the troops, please? It's out of control.
Mm-hmm. They never will. They never will. They'll never protect their citizens. They're anti-cop. They're anti-law and order. They're anti-security. They're pro-criminal and they're pro-crime. Let's just be honest. Here we have Jamie Raskin again. Of course, he's getting a platform on the Constipated News Network. Cut 10, go.
I think that everybody is standing up for their state, like Governor Moore is standing up for the free state of Maryland. I think the mayors are standing up.
Actually, during the Civil War, part of Maryland was not a free state. Maryland was kind of split between the Confederacy and the Union. So the constitutional expert is a moron, isn't he, Mr. Producer? Actually, to educate the constitutional expert and Stalinist fan, Jamie Raskin. That's right, Raskin. You heard me. Actually, one of the reasons Abraham Lincoln suspended habeas corpus was because a mob that supported the Confederacy was cutting the telegraph lines. So Washington, D.C., which is about to be subjected to a siege from the north in Maryland by Marylanders who in that particular case supported the Confederacy. They were cutting the telegraph lines. So Lincoln ordered them all round up and thrown in prison as an emergency because he said, look, we don't have time to take each one of these people to court, round them up and throw them in prison. The free state of Maryland. Free state of Maryland. Part of it was, part of it wasn't. Just like part of Delaware was, part of Delaware wasn't. What did Delaware, boys? Do you know that, Mr. Producer? Okay. Go ahead.
Going to be pushed around by this fraudulent would-be king. And the fact that people
Listen to the language this jackass uses. He's Mussolini. It's like he listens to my show, steals the phrases I use to characterize them. And in my case, it's true when I call them what they are. So now he's a would-be phony king. Again, because he's trying to protect the citizens of Washington, D.C., which the Democrats are ideologically incapable of doing. And same in any other city. Go ahead.
One of him.
Shut up, you idiot. Then we have Brandon Johnson. You probably heard this all day, but I can't be sure. He's the mayor of Chicago. He's got a popularity rating of negative 117. And I got to give it to Joe Scarborough. He really impressed him well, questioned him. Cut 11, go.
That's not the question I asked. My question is, and I just need a yes or a no, do you believe the streets of Chicago would be safer if you got all of those other extraordinary programs put back into place, which do have a history of being successful, if that's complemented by having 5,000 more cops on the streets of Chicago?
I don't believe that we should narrow it down to just police officers, Joe, is what I'm saying. That is an antiquated approach. I'm saying we've invested in detectives.
Mr. Mayor, are you hearing what I'm saying? I'm agreeing with you that all of these other social programs are extraordinarily important. I just need a yes or a no, and then this will be the last time I ask. If you get all of those other social programs that 800 million that New York City does, Los Angeles, other people do with great success, would an additional 5,000 cops on the streets in Chicago help complement those programs to make Chicago safer?
Look, we are working hard to make sure that our police department is fully supported. I don't believe that just simply putting out an arbitrary number around police officers is the answer. What I'm saying is policing and affordable housing. It's policing and mental and behavioral health care.
I told you, these people are ideologically opposed to law enforcement. Period. And so if you're supportive of law enforcement, you're Hitler, you're Mussolini, you're a would-be king. Here's more from the mayor. Cut 12, go.
We cannot incarcerate our way out of violence. We've already tried that, and we've ended up with the largest prison population in the world.
I don't even know what that means. If people commit these heinous crimes where there's real victims, particularly violent crimes, are we not supposed to incarcerate them? Who cares how many people are in prison if that's the case? And it is the case. You know, on the one hand, they tell you we gotta uphold our justice system, and when Donald Trump was convicted unjustly, you got to believe in the jury. You got to believe in the system. Meanwhile, you have murderers who are convicted, rapists, people who beat the crap out of other people. We can't incarcerate our way out of violence, you know. No, can't incarcerate our way out. Go ahead.
Problems of crime and violence, the addiction on jails and incarceration in this country.
See what I mean? You just got to listen to them, and then you'll understand why Trump has to do what he does in D.C., why he's looking at other cities. And so the issue isn't, is Trump a dictator? The issue is, why do they support violent criminals, murderers, rapists? Because the only way to get them off the streets is to get them off the streets and put them in prison. There is no other way. There is no other way. Now let's go to Adam Kinzinger, the new lefty, who got elected first to the House of Representatives as a Tea Party candidate. But he's come full circle, meaning he's lost his mind altogether, because he's angry. He's an angry man. Cut 14, go.
You could put a soldier in every square mile and reduce this country to have zero crime. I read the book 1984. That's what they did there. Is that what we want to live in, where you just occupy every city?
Who wrote the book 1984? George Orwell. Has he ever read what George Orwell wrote that was not a fiction? Has he? No, he hasn't. George Orwell warned against fascism and communism. Excuse me. You say, Kinzinger, you could deploy armed personnel on every street, on every corner. That's how dictators come to power. That's how authoritarians come to power. But how would a dictator or authoritarian come to power? How would the president become a dictator or authoritarian if he's following the Constitution and the law, ladies and gentlemen? Did Kinzinger yell about authoritarianism and dictators during the pandemic? When the city of Chicago was shut down, when Illinois was shut down, when kids couldn't go to school? Did he? When you actually had the government telling you what you could do or not do in your own household, or what you could and couldn't do with your own body? Huh? Did he talk about dictators then? Did he talk about 1984 then? How about Animal Farm? Did he talk about that? No. Why not? Why not? When places of worship were shut down in these blue states, I didn't hear from Kinzinger, did you? No, it was righteous. It was righteous to put businesses out of business, employees out of work. It was righteous. You didn't hear anything about Mussolini and Hitler and dictators or any of the thing. Here, we're using law enforcement backed by the National Guard to protect the citizens of these cities from murder, rape, violent crimes of other kinds. And all of a sudden, it's dictatorship. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
How many times have you told someone, if it ain't broke, don't fix it? Now, that's great advice for most things, but not so much for a cell phone. See, over time, the battery life fades, the processor can't keep up, and it's fallen in the toilet perhaps one too many times. Fortunately, thanks to Pure Talk, your cell phone is something you can replace without feeling guilty. When you switch to Pure Talk this month, they're going to give you a Samsung Galaxy A36 for free with a $35 qualifying plan. Wow, just $35 a month for talk, text, and data, and a free Samsung phone, the scratch-resistant Gorilla Glass, and a battery that lasts all day. All on America's most dependable 5G network. Look, supporting companies like Pure Talk is a really good thing. You win by cutting your cell phone bill in half. They win by hiring more Americans and helping more veterans. Make the switch in as little as 10 minutes. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin to get your free phone today. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin. Switch to my wireless company, America's wireless company, Pure Talk. Here we be. Here we be at Preposition City. So we have Joaquin Castro, a Congress nut from Texas, Trump's authoritarian leader. We have Jennifer McClellan, Democrat, Virginia. Being an undocumented immigrant is not a crime. Oh, yeah, all these people are nuts. We have Millie Herrera, DNC Resolutions Committee member at the DNC summer meeting. Alligator Alcatraz is a concentration camp. Veronica Escobar. No, can't be one of them. We could lose everything. We could lose our democracy, our constitutional republic. All because of Trump. Sick bastards all. We'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811, New York Post. Billions in nonprofit peculation, now largely funded. America's left starting to starting to lift the lid off a far, far larger scam. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick just nicked $7 billion in advance payments, quote unquote, in advance payments that Biden administration staffers aimed to divert to a nonprofit, quote unquote, controlled by other Democrat insiders. Look at these scams. Look at these scams. The bigger scam being, of course, how the left and lots of plain old Democrat machines feed off government-funded charities, quote unquote. It's a huge part of the swamp, though, of course, its dozens pretend their motives don't reek. In this case, the Bidenites were in too much of a hurry to make the theft fully legal. After President Trump's victory last November, high-level staff all across the executive branch rushed to corral cash that hadn't yet gone out the door, lest the MAGA crew actually vet where it was going. You believe this? This is your money. So some plugged-in Democrats quickly created Natcast. Natcast, a private, public, not-for-profit, which the Bidenites immediately chose to direct tens of billions of dollars in subsidies to tech firms under the CHIPS Act. Except the law never allowed for such a cutout to handle the outlays, which made the diversion plainly illegal. Ooh, sounds like Mussolini. Even if everybody ever goes to jail for it, Lutnick can at least claw back the funds. And that was just part of the looting frenzy. Another scheme parked $20 billion at Citibank with an eye on ensuring the environmental justice grants, quote unquote, went to Democratic allies, such as one, as we discussed, linked to Stacey Abrams, the failed Georgia governor candidate and election denier. Zeldin saw that, the EPA chief, and killed it. Notably, the $2 billion Abrams-linked grant was destined for Rewiring America, which is tied via a network of interlocking shell nonprofits to Arabella Advisors, the billion-dollar Democrat dark money network founded and run by a former Clinton staffer. What a bunch of whores. What a bunch of whores. All this cash was appropriated in the name of noble causes, protecting America's high-tech edge, fighting climate change, and so forth. But it enriches an awful lot of middlemen on the way to maybe doing actual good, maybe. In New York, such arrangements feed much of the dominant Democratic and further left political ecosystem. Tens of billions in taxpayer funds directed to tax-exempt charities that theoretically stay away from politics, lobbying, or elections, but nobody polices them. So supposed charities like Legal Aid or Make the Road or the Arab American Association of New York regularly engage in political protests and provide day jobs for political operatives and future candidates in alliance with the officials who reward them with this funding. Billions. It's great to see Team Trump starting to excise these nonprofit scams that are so deeply infected in U.S. politics, but the amount of rot to remove is mind-boggling. All in the name of good causes, of course. This is the real corruption. You know, people rob banks and so forth, but that's not where the real money is. That's not where the big money is. The big money is in the Democrat Party ripping off the American taxpayer through these phony charities. Hello. Want to hear more? DefendingEducation.org. Diverted. Teachers unions spend $40+ million in dues on far left causes. Total union dollars given to left-wing organizations, $43 million and change. Total AFT dollars given to left-wing organizations, almost $15 million. Total NEA dollars given to left-wing organizations, almost $29 million. So this report highlights AFT and NEA funding of left-wing and far-left political organizations. Since 2022, the two largest teachers unions, the American, you pay these salaries too, ladies and gentlemen. You pay for this too, indirectly. The American Federation of Teachers and the National Education Association have given out a combined nearly $44 million in funding to left-wing and far-left groups. Some organizations receiving funds include MoveOn.org. I thought that was a Democrat group. PEN America, the 1630 Fund, the Trevor Project, and a handful of state and federal left-wing political action committees. For example, the two unions gave a combined $9,300,000 to a group called For Our Future Action Fund, a left-wing political action committee. And the NEA gave the State Engaged Fund $9.5 million over the same period. Holy moly. And they have a list of all this funding to all these leftist organizations. The amount of money that goes into these organizations, they take out of the dues from teachers who work at these government-run schools. You realize the vast majority of our states, you pay property taxes on your homes to pay for your schools. Now, on average, about 75 cents, in some cases over 80 cents of every dollar on your property taxes goes towards your school system, the government-run schools. And, of course, in the vast majority of states, there is a monopoly, either the NEA or the AFT. You see, only monopolies are illegal when it comes to business, not when it comes to public sector unions. And these public sector unions have enormous power. They can shut down the whole school system. And they know it. Remember what happened in the pandemic in the Windy City of Chicago? The teachers union there, which is outrageous. What a bunch of thugs run that union. That's right, I said it. Thugs run that union. Oh, they were demanding, all kinds of benefits that had nothing to do with the students or even the schools, because they knew they could shake it down. Worst thing that was ever done, the allowing of unionized public school teachers. That's right, I said that too. Write it down, chisel it. Hasn't improved education one iota, quite the opposite. And it's created this massively powerful, incredibly rich couple of unions that fund almost exclusively Democrats and left-wing causes. That's your tax money. And if you don't pay your property taxes, you lose your home. It's the biggest shakedown in America. It's the biggest shakedown in America. And by the way, it happens in Republican counties too. I mean, in Florida, where you have no income tax, some of these Republican counties really shake down the homeowners. Big time. It's terrible. So that's going on, too. I thought you'd want to be aware of that. Then we have an outrageous ruling from Blaze Media. They do a great job of reporting on this. Appeals court unanimous. Hold on, there's an ad. In pivotal ruling on undated or misdated mail-in ballots in Pennsylvania. Ready for this? The Republican National Committee was dealt a blow by a unanimous decision of a Third Circuit Appeals Court, that's three-judge panel, in the RNC's effort to discard undated and misdated ballots in Pennsylvania. The three-judge panel said in a 55-page ruling that the affected ballots needed to be counted, and failing to do so was unconstitutional. Pennsylvania voters are required to write the date on the envelope for their mail-in ballots. Now, this is a very liberal appeals court, very liberal. The date requirement imposes a burden on Pennsylvania's constitutional right to vote, the court ruling. It's such a burden. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Perdue, you write checks. What happens if you don't put a date on a check? It doesn't go through. It doesn't go through. What happens if you don't put a date on some kind of government fine? Let's say an income tax to the feds. Or let's say the income tax for the state of Pennsylvania. Let's say you don't put a date on there. Does that go through? No. They reject it. It's such a burden, though. That should be your argument. Hey, it's a burden. It's a burden. The RNC unsuccessfully sought to discard those thousands of ballots for the 2025 election. The date requirement seems to hamper rather than facilitate election efficiency, said the geniuses on this court. By its nature, it fails to add solemnity to the process of voting. What are you talking about? And discarding thousands of ballots every election is not a reasonable trade-off in view of the date requirement. So this is like an opinion piece. It's not really a judicial decision. It's dressed up as a judicial decision. See what I'm saying? One more from Blaze Media. They have a great site. The Islamification of America is well underway, and it surely is. And who's been banging the pots and pans about that? Ready for this? By 2040, 15 years from now, Islam is set to overtake Judaism as the country's second largest religion. John McGillian writes, America was built on Christian foundation, rooted in individual liberty, personal responsibility, and devotion to God Almighty. These weren't trivial ideas. They were bricks in the wall, pillars that had held up a republic unlike anything the world has seen. That foundation is cracking, not from earthquakes, but from erosion, from silence, from fear. By 2040, Islam is expected to be the second largest religion in the United States, surpassing Judaism. Let this census-level reality sink in for a minute, he writes. With growth comes influence, cultural, legal, political. The consequences will be profound, and they will not wait politely at the door. Islam is not like Christianity. It does not draw clean lines between worship and law, between private belief and public life. That's right. The religious is legal. The mosque is a courtroom. It's a legislature. It's a military command center. Sharia law is the spine of Islamic thought, codified, enforced, and upheld. If you read my book, On Power, I have a whole section on this. 15 years. Islam will be the second largest religion in the United States. Now, Islamists are applauding me as they hear me say this. They're applauding. They're thrilled. Left-wing media outlets like Mediocrite, the Sludge Report, they're thrilled. You dare not even speak about it. Don't even say a word. Don't say a word. Your humble host has been warning about this and warning about this and warning about this. And why is it important? Because we're talking about Islamists. That is, as Zuhdi Jasser points out, political Islam. And if you think they have a power hold now in the country, in the media that represents Hamas, in our colleges and universities that embrace Hamas, the Democrat Party that embraces Hamas, unfortunately, you ain't seen anything yet. Mandami is just one of what will be many. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
So the issue here is now that we've been alerted to the fact that Islam will become the second biggest religion in America in 15 years. Isn't that what it said, Mr. Producer? What do we do about it? Just close our eyes and hope for the best? This is why I write these books. This is why I'm behind this microphone. This is why I'm in front of a TV camera. To press our case. And how many people have the guts to push this issue? Very few. Very few. I want to remind you, in his book, Battle for the Soul of Islam, Zuhdi Jasser decries the preaching and writing of Sayyid Qutb, one of the most prominent thought leaders of the Muslim Brotherhood and political Islam. That's what we're talking about. And he explains that, and he's a Muslim with Syrian roots and a patriotic American, former commander in the Navy. Jasser explains that while the roots of Islamism can be traced back hundreds of years, with the ideas of pure Islam, Qutb's 1964 book, Milestones, has significant influence even now. Qutb often mentioned Jahiliyyah, which he defines as the state of ignorance of the guidance of God. What is extremely significant about this is that in Qutb's view, the entire Western world was riddled with Jahiliyyah. At the same time, he considered most Muslims of his time to be suffering from such ignorance due to what he considered by watering down through the ages of pure Islam, in part because of Western influences, but also due to what he considered Muslims tampering with the purity of Islam so that it no longer existed, and this is why Muslims slaughter Muslims. Qutb saw it as his mission to revive such pure Islam, with its very strict interpretation of Sharia law, to never give an inch in terms of adopting or compromising with Western values, which he considered devoted to materialism, violence, and racism. Finally, as Jasser notes in his book, Qutb writes, this is Qutb, our foremost objective is to change the practices of this society. Our aim is to change the Kahiliya system to its very roots, this system which is fundamentally at variance with Islam and which, meaning America, with the help of force and oppression, is keeping us from living the sort of life which is demanded by our Creator. Our first step. Isn't it interesting that Carlson and Bannon and Green and the rest never mentioned this? Any of this, Mr. Producer? Ever? Ever? Our first step will be to raise ourselves above the Jahiliyyah society and all its causes and concepts. We will not change our own values and concepts either, more or less, to make a bargain with the Jahiliyyah society. Never. We and it are on different roads, and if we take even one step in its company, we will lose our goal entirely and lose our way as well. So the constant bloody wars among different Muslim sects, including in Syria, Yemen, Lebanon, and elsewhere. This is in my book, On Power, if you're curious. And the targeting of the West by a long list of Islamist organizations such as Hamas, Islamic Jihad, and Al-Qaeda, as well as Islamist states that support terrorism such as Iran, Qatar, and others. Oh, Qatar's having a blast. Provide ample evidence of the bloody Islamist impact both within individual countries and throughout the world on Muslims and non-Muslims alike. And I write about this at length, starting at page 50. You might be interested in it, those of you who have the book On Power. Those of you who don't, you might want to get it and spread the word. I think it's the only way to confront this now. Or your children will wake up one day to a completely different country. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin, America's real influencer. Dial in 877-381-3811.
I see our friends at Turning Point USA. I believe they have a massive conservative event in December. They're going to have Tucker there and Bannon there as well as others. I can see why I don't speak there. Can't you, Mr. Producer? I'm just too much of a traditional conservative. Too big of an audience. It's okay. I spend my time during the holidays with my family, but that's not the point. Bannon and Tucker, not exactly what I consider superstars of a conservative movement, or even MAGA for that matter. We're going to keep an eye on this in the days and weeks and months ahead. I told you, I just call them as I see them. That's what I do. All right, let's take a few calls here. Tony, Fort Hood, Texas, XM Satellite. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine, Mark. God bless you, and God bless America.
Thank you. Likewise, my friend.
Yes. Well, I called in because, everybody's favorite network channel, CNN, did it again and let it happen again. Last night, on News Night with our friend Abby Phillips, she let Tiffany Cross say, quote,
hold on now. Do we have that, mister? Hold on now. I think we have that audio, don't we? We don't? Okay, go ahead.
It's on YouTube. But anyway, she said Stephen Miller was, quote, a white racist.
Yep.
Stephen Miller, as far as I'm concerned, should.
I think she said worse than that.
Well,
I saw over at Right Scoop, one of our favorite sites, that he suggested, or he was implying that a lawsuit might be coming. She is poison. She's poison, like Joy Reid is poison, like these other people I just mentioned. Tucker and Bannon, they're poison as far as I'm concerned. They're all poison. Go ahead.
Well, hopefully, Stephen will sue him for defamation. He ain't going to mess around, just like Trump. CNN learned their lesson. ABC learned their lesson before. He's going to keep going.
All right,
going.
you're right, of course, Tony. Let's go to Sandra, Gutenberg, New Jersey. I don't know how are you listening to us?
Oh, Mark, I'm listening to you on my radio on WABC.
WABC. Go right ahead.
Yeah. But first, I must say, it was such a pleasure meeting you in Northvale, New Jersey, for your beautiful book event on power.
Thank you, and what a beautiful store, and they did a beautiful job, all you folks. Thank you.
And you're welcome. The wonderful people I met were all thinking the same way, so it was just a great day. So I wanted to speak about buyer's remorse. Like what happened in California can very easily happen here in New York City if we elect Mamdani. So I think it's very easy to destroy a city. It's very hard to rebuild it once it gets destroyed. So, right. So your book, Power, negative power, is what Mamdani is going to use to ruin this city of ours. So I don't know what's going to be.
Well, you're 100% right.
Look at. I know. They have to see what happened in California, and it can't happen here. And, yeah.
I mean, you had this guy, de Blasio, who was horrific. And this guy, Mamdani, makes de Blasio look like Barry Goldwater. That's how bad this guy is. He is horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. And the truth is, because he's a Marxist, Islamist, anti-Semite, Schumer can't endorse him, but he won't denounce him. Jeffries won't endorse him, but he won't denounce him. These are gutless wonders. Gutless wonders. The Democrat Party has a big problem on its hands, and look, we do too. It's not as big as the Democrat Party, but what I just mentioned. Big conservative confab, and you're going to have these punks, some of these punks there? Seriously? All right, thank you for your call, my friend. I appreciate it. Randy, Olympia, Washington, XM Satellite, how are you?
Good. Mark, thanks for taking my call.
You got it.
Hey, I love your program. I listen to you a lot. And I called in previously and asked you a question about these politicians that aren't following their oath of office. If you couldn't just remove them, and you said, no, we got to vote them out. So I've been...
Well, I know no other way to just remove them. How would you just remove them?
Well, I thought it said in the Constitution if they don't follow their oath of office that they can be removed immediately. But moving forward...
Where does it say that? The Constitution does not say that. Number one. Number two, the Constitution provides for impeachment. Members of Congress can't be impeached. They're elected. Impeachment applies to executive branch officials and judicial branch officials, and the House can vote on it. It's the people. They vote. If they want people who break the law, they can vote for people who break the law. They can vote for people who are in jail if they want to be members of Congress.
The question I'm really dying to ask you, I've been wanting to ask this for a couple of weeks now, given all the information that's been released, the conspiracy that's been uncovered, and the amount of sedition and actual, I think, treason in a few cases. Given all that, the whole Democratic Party seems guilty of sedition.
All right, thanks for your call. I mean, come on, man. What do you want? The whole Democrat Party guilty of sedition. So what should we do? Go arrest them all? We got to screen, we got to do a little bit of a better job. I don't really understand. The whole Democrat Party is guilty of sedition. Now, I have friends who are Democrats. The Democrat leadership is one thing. The Democrat members are another. Some of them are very patriotic. And they're troubled by what's going on and so forth. So when you say the whole Democrat Party is guilty of sedition, the Democrat Party, in terms of the infrastructure, in terms of the leadership and so forth and so on, I can't even say all of them are guilty of sedition and therefore should be arrested and thrown in prison. Come on, Mr. Callstrom. I want smart callers. Let's go to Randy, Olympia. I just did him. Let's go to... Go ahead. What? KSLM, Lisa, Salem, Oregon. Go right ahead.
Oh, Mark Levin, I am so thankful to finally get to talk to you, to thank you for saving my mind from the liberal catechism that it was in.
Thank you.
I just wanted to ask, the left is a champion for women and children and sometimes families, okay? Not necessarily the nuclear, but on October 7th, what happened with the videos that they post of these women and children being assaulted?
Mm-hmm. Assaulted, being slaughtered. Yes.
Right. Why don't they champion, and why are they going against that? Like, I don't understand that.
Because they're sick.
It's
sick.
twisted.
Absolutely sick.
So,
At least that's my view.
One more thing. So my daughter was in high school, and obviously Oregon's very sanctuary city, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And everything they were saying, with the first Trump term, they were shoving down the kids' throats that, oh, he's this bad person, blah, 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 blah. And my daughter was on the side of liberalism, and we would get in these disagreements all the time.
You and your daughter.
And then when COVID,
okay.
Yes. Because my husband actually started listening to you, and so I've listened to you for the last 10 years.
Thank you.
And we are absolutely huge fans. Anyways, she was home from COVID, and she was seeing on the news, where they would say, oh, this is a peaceful protest. She's like, Mom, that's not peaceful protest. And I'm like, right? And then she said, he did this, he did that. And then he's like, none of that's actually true. And I can honestly say now I have 4 children, and all of them are Republicans. So.
Oh, you're lucky. All right.
Very lucky.
Very lucky. Well, congratulations, my friend, and thanks for listening. It's much appreciated here. Very much. All right, Richie, what am I left with here? We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
All right. You tell me the show's almost over already? I must be the only host with a 3-hour show that thinks it goes too fast. We could do a 5-hour show here. Well, look at this. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are engaged. Did you know this, Mr. Producer? It's not possible to miss it, is it? Now, people commenting on this, they don't know either one of them. It's fantastic. I'm watching these comments. It's America's couple. It's just unbelievable. Well, I wish them well. I wish every couple well. But now I'm going to be in big trouble. But I don't care. Am I allowed to say that, Rich? It's nothing personal. I wish them well. But I don't care. America's couple. Why is that? Well, because. Here, one guy said, because my daughter goes to her concerts and likes her a lot. Okay, great. That's fantastic. Wonderful. America's couple. I'm not putting them down, but the frenzy is ridiculous. It's like breaking news everywhere. Breaking news! These two are engaged. Oh, wow. What? So who else got engaged today? Do we know, Mr. Producer? Any other football players and singers? I'm just curious. I don't think so. Instead, I'm seeing a lot of hoodlums out there in sports, who are going to prison. Mostly ex-athletes, but no offense. Let's see here. Got a lot to do still, but I don't have any time to do it. Jack Smith's legal team fires back against ethics complaint. Wow. The New York Slimes reports. Hakeem Jeffries ripped for noting that Lisa Cook's race while slamming Trump for trying to fire her. Who gives a flying fruitcake what color she is? This is the woman who's part of the Federal Reserve Board, who has a mortgage issue. And so one of the newspapers writes, they're using the mortgage issue to go after people. And I'm thinking, well, if there's nothing to go after, they can't go after people. Everybody together. You have one primary residence, just one, And that's how you get a beneficial mortgage rate on your primary residence. We would remind the Federal Reserve Board. We would remind senators. We would remind attorneys general of states like New York. You get one primary. That's why it's called primary residence. Doesn't seem too complicated to me. I mean, this is open and shut stuff, is it not? Yes, it is. Oh, and for all the Putinoids out there who hate Zelensky and so forth, but love their Putin. Look at this from the Express of the UK. Russia is treating kids as prisoners of war and hostages. Their lives have been stolen. Well, do tell. The Daily Express highlights the devastating plight of 1.6 million Ukrainian children stolen from their families under Russian occupation. Now, who else did this? You raise your hand. Sally. Joseph Stalin. That's right, Sally. Putin, according to this article, has taken 1.6 million Ukrainian children from their homes. As part of any deal, will he return them? Over the past decade, many have been placed in so-called re-education programs to erode their national identity or conscripted in activities that support Russia's military effort. Campaigners say girls of 15 are being lured to holiday camps, forced to sell landmines, while boys of primary school age are beaten if they speak their native tongue. Mayolka Kuluba, founder of the charity Save Ukraine, told the Express Russia has taken 1.6 million child hostages. You don't hear about this. Instead, it's the Jews. The Jews in Israel. Netanyahu is a war criminal. Oh, yeah. They're the ones. Genocide. I haven't heard Marjorie Taylor Greene talk about this. And we know it's not official, formal, certified unless she does. These children's lives have been stolen under the occupation. They have no rights of freedom. We rescue children who have not gone out, got out of their yard for 3 years, who don't know how to count or read because they were deprived access to education. The kids who have returned tell us that Russia is treating them as hostages and prisoners of war. In Putin's prisons, Ukrainian soldiers are forced to sing Russian songs and read nationalistic poetry every day. The same thing happens with Ukrainian children in occupied territories. They are subjected to this indoctrination and face punishment for speaking Ukrainian. And he warned that Russia's use of children abductions risks setting a dangerous precedent. Children cannot be used as bargaining chips. Well, tell the terrorists, the Palestinian terrorists, that. They don't even use them as bargaining chips. They just murder them. We salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, our truckers, the men and women in Ukraine, the men and women in Israel, and you, the American people. God bless each and every one of you. And I'll see you tomorrow.